Look how strong my muscles are. Oh, so big and manly. Oh, why can't you move big blue buckets like a real man, Chris? You knew I was going to come back out and try this, right? This is my homemade low banker. It's low because they ain't got no legs.
But you ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dane.
Yes, I know that.
And I've brought it out to one of my favorite spots on Reedy Creek. This spot actually has some gold, and that gold is locked up in all of these flood gravels here. But the problem with flood gravels is they're full of big gravel. But guess what? I built a solution. I contacted my friend Gina Reinhardt and asked if I could use some of her iron to make a mesh screen. Because, well, okay, I actually stole this idea off the old timers. You see, the old timers would have a bed frame with its springs, and they would lean it up against a tree like that. Then they'd take their oversized spoons and then they just yeet dirt at it. Well, that didn't work. Perhaps a pouring method would be a bit better. Yeah, that'll work. Now obviously this is kind of wet, so everything sticks together. We can always rerun the big gravels because we are making nice soft fluffy gravels behind, which will go down my low banker quite well. Big green bucket. Like a glove. Well, that's working really well. It would be almost impossible for me to overstate just how fast I could fill a 40-litre bucket with 1/4-inch classified dirt. Well, this worked way better than I thought it was going to work. As I said, we got a little bit of loss down here, but we don't care about that because that's a 40-litre bucket done in 3 minutes. 1/4-inch classified, 3 minutes, 40 litres. That's ridiculous. If you don't know anything about gold mining, that would take a long time with a hand classifier. And yeah, I am scooping this up with my meat scoops because I didn't bring a scoop. There is a problem I hadn't considered, and that is this is going to be so light, and I have to get it over here. Oh, that's actually not that bad. I thought that was going to be way worse. I guess removing all the big gravel reduces weight or something. We've got my low banker set up on a little bit more of an angle than you normally would with a sluice box. And that's because I'm bucketing water into it. If I had some kind of high banking system, the water would be a constant flow. It'd be much easier to get right. By having it on a steeper angle, we should be able to clear everything. But classification might change that. This is an experiment again. Mini pan. There ain't no way that this isn't going to work. The question is, how well? Okay, classification really works. Wow. Half a bucket of water. I was using 3 buckets the first time I used this. Oh, accuracy is not my forte with this thing. Hey, you're using too much water. Probably what people will say. I got to cut to the chase straight away. A lot of people are going to say, why don't you take out a high banker? And my answer to that is I absolutely could, but then you got to take pumps, petrol, hoses, extra fittings, extra pieces of equipment like screwdrivers and whatnot, plus the high banker, plus all your buckets and pans and shovels and everything else. This is a single box. It's a lot lighter, it's a lot easier to move around, and it's way more fun. Well, personally, I think it's more fun. And the next question I'll get asked is, why don't you put that in the creek? Now, the answer is I would, but the creek is flat at this point, so there's nowhere to run it. And the idea of this is simple. I am just processing dirt how they process it in most developing countries with very simple equipment. And it's a lot more fun than using all the clinical stuff we've developed in the West. Bastardized gold equipment. Yeah, it absolutely gets you a little bit more gold. It's the difference between 95% capture and 98% capture, but when you're talking about a 1/4 gram and it's just your hobby, who cares? But if you can see through the glare on the mat, there is a bunch of black sand in there, and I'm going to assume gold. But you know what they say about assumptions, that makes an ass out of you and me, so we better do a test. 10-inch mini pan. Unclassified gravels. Now this spot at one point had gold, and I got a little bit from it. In fact, that was where I made the swirling pan video. But I was moving at a glacial pace that day. So hopefully, being able to classify 40-litre buckets in 3 minutes is going to yield slightly more gold than what it cost me to drive out here. One little 10-inch pan. Look at the amount of black sand we got. Wow, that is more than 5. Gold? That there is the gold out of one 10-inch pan of unclassified material that was only 3/4 full. Come here, you big juicy mother. Wow. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but we can be confident that gravity still works. Ah! Wow! What a rude rock. This is working so well. Look at all the bonus pay dirt I've got. I got muscles. I can prove it. Oh my god, look how strong my muscles are. Oh, so big and manly. Oh. Why can't you move big blue buckets like a real man, Chris? Wow, that was one pass's worth of black sand. Holy cow. Ever wonder what a holy cow actually looks like? Like, is it godlike, or is it dressed like the Pope? With deep philosophical questions put aside, I was really impressed with the performance of the low banker. Outside of wealthy developed nations, this is the method most commonly used across the world for gold processing. 40 litres of dirt done in just 3.5 minutes. That is really quick. But that is also a lot of black sand in the tailing, so I wonder how much we're losing. Nice clean pan, and we'll give that a bit of a pan job. You lose gold out of every single gold collecting system on Earth. It does not matter what system you're running, you're going to lose gold. And why I say that, for one important reason. Very few of us are in this game to make money off the gold. Almost every single sluice box, gold pan, or metal detector is going to find you a significant portion of gold, irrespective of the brand, the setup, or the type. What you're talking about is the finer details. It's the difference between collecting 90% of your gold or 95% of your gold with an average setup and 98% of your gold. Sure, if you're running excavator buckets of material, that becomes worth it. But on this level, it's really not. Don't stress so much about losing a little bit of gold. You'll be a lot healthier for it, I promise. We will absolutely have some specks of gold in here, but I don't really care as long as there's not like 60 million of them. Just there, center of frame, 2 little nano dots. That's all we're losing. And we're gaining about 10 per pan. So we're +8, -2, I can live with that. The last time I used this, I had these riffles flipped up the other way so they were a triangle. But I thought if I invert them, it's going to create a double riffle. And it's working really well because it's collecting black sand and gemstones. And my marine carpet's working well. I've got a piece of gold right at the start. And another bit. And another bit. The level of enthusiasm I was feeling at this point was quite high. I had minimal loss, and I was seeing gold in the box. And that's the thing I've discovered over the last month, having started making all of my own equipment. It's amazing to get out there and have something that you visioned in your head turn out to actually work in reality, which is quite the opposite experience I'm used to. Third blue bucket down, and I have a nice flake in the mat. It's nice seeing bigger particle sizes. All the gold I've seen so far is literally up in this top section, which is great. I haven't seen any gold down here. I'm sure it exists, but it's probably hiding from me. Because if it was down in those bottom rungs, it knows that I'd be disappointed in it. Much like a child getting caught after sneaking out to go to a party and getting drunk and having to call your dad at 3 o'clock in the morning because you did too many drugs. It was sunny when I woke up, and it looks like there's some really shit-house weather rolling in, including that pink bucket over there. I'm going to do 2 buckets total to bring me to 250 litres of pay dirt. That's like 762 hamburgers for those in the US, who exclusively deal in freedom units. Yes, I know you went to the moon based off freedom units, and I respect that, but you also utilized our satellite, which was in a cow paddock using the metric system. Why do the buckets get heavier? They get so much heavier as the day goes on. Can you tell summer's coming? I've always been told that dog hair enhances the flavor of the gold. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, I am actually developing a water delivery system that's going to make an even flow over this whole box, and if you want to see that project, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss it, or at least come back and visit me. Projects just like this one have been made possible by my amazing patrons and channel members. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's jumped on board over the last month, as well as my long-term patrons who have helped me directly make things like this. But there are heaps of other things you can do to support creators like myself without joining Patreon or channel membership. All you got to do is leave a comment below and hit like. That helps distribute the videos to other people, and therefore I get more views. And if you want to be a patron, it costs $2 a month, and the link is in the description below. Before this weather rolls in, I'm going to take a test pan out of that spot there. I would absolutely like to run my last bucket from a spot that, you know, has gold in it, so we don't have to stare at a mat that has no gold in it. One unclassified shovel of dirt, and we want to see, I don't know, 10 flakes would be good. From an unclassified. Oh, we got way more than 10. Holy crap, we're on a real good spot. I got way more than 10 flakes in this pan. Wow. That's way more than 10 flakes, so hopefully that means we've got to have a fair amount of gold down in that sluice box. And this time when I try to melt the gold, hopefully it won't evaporate like it did last time. Look, sometimes you can take the boy out of the playground, but it's very hard to take the playground out of the boy. I enjoyed processing dirt in a much more manual labor intensive way than I ever have utilizing some of the more modern equipment. And I'm going to bet that I'm going to use this equipment a lot more than some of the commercial stuff. We are starting to see some really nice pieces of gold in the mat. There's one there, and I saw more over here somewhere. But that is my 5th bucket done, so we're going to do the clean out. Come on, Matt, don't fail me now. Ah, straight out. Engineering professional over here. This type of matting works really well to hold on to the gold. So well, in fact, that you kind of have to wait for it to dry out, and then you've got to re-bang it into a larger tub to get all the gold out. And yeah, I am completely aware of the time that I said I don't have a big enough tub with a massive wheelbarrow directly behind me that I just didn't know existed for some reason, though, even though it's mine. Where possible, I always like to try and remove the blonde sands on the creek just because it makes cleanup at home that much easier. So we're going to do that. And as you can see, we're pretty much down to nothing but the black sands with a little bit of blonde sands left. And that's the stuff we're going to be cleaning up at home. And it's also completely non-magnetic, so I have to do it manually. That right there is what I'm talking about. You can catch really fine gold with almost anything as long as you have a little bit of knowledge on how gravity and water affect gold. It is all through the black sand, and that is some fine stuff. So I'm expecting there is going to be a lot more throughout our concentrates. The worst part about all of prospecting is the cleanup. The best part is you get to see your gold, finally. And the worst part is separating gold from black sand. And because I hillbilly engineered the low banker, I thought I could take it up a notch and redneck engineer that, a miller table. Enough chit chat, concentrate time. These concentrates have been incredibly rich. I've run about 4 or 5 teaspoons just to see what was in them a couple days ago, and my god, they are loaded. Watch how much gold comes out of this. Look how many specks of gold have come out of a single teaspoon. And like, don't worry, there's going to be some migration down the mat, and it doesn't really matter because we have V-matting at the end, and we can literally just clean the V-mat out later. Oh my god, it's a Reedy Creek nugget. I'll be going in the record books for that bad boy. Look at the size of that monka. Foil, gold leaf, that's what it looks like. Reedy Creek gold is stupidly flat. It's paper thin. Actually, it's thinner than paper. Makes it very hard to get to separate from the damn tin. Get in the hole. I've made a little bit of an executive decision about the VMAT down the bottom. I'm not going to clean that out for multiple runs. I want to let it just accumulate any gold that gets lost, and then I'll do a separate clean out completely at a later date. You know, this is the first cleanup I've done with the Miller table other than testing. I'm pretty excited about this. That means every single piece of gold that's in this jar right now, not only did I collect with my homemade river sluice, I also cleaned out with my homemade Miller table. Ooh, that's a good take. I'm gonna guess we're just under the gram. Let me get this dried up and on the scales. All of that work came down to this shiny yellow gold. No matter how many times you go prospecting, seeing gold come out of your concentrates like this never ever gets old. And I'm certainly not the first human to have touched this gold. You can see those silver specks there are small pieces of mercury. Mercury lost from the old timers trying to collect gold out of their own concentrates. And a new hobby of mine has definitely been looking at this gold underneath a microscope. One of the most surprising finds I found during this cleanup was a tiny specimen. This is not very big, but you can still see the quartz embedded in the gold. Being able to view the structure of the gold and quartz mixed together can, in the long run, help you hunt down the lode deposits. This is the same piece under 120 power magnification. Look at how the gold and quartz are bound together. And I have left a link down in the description below to a microscope just like this one. They only cost a few dollars and they're well worth picking up if you're into prospecting. And yes, if you do decide to purchase one of these through the link below, I do get a small kickback. Considering I used 2 homemade machines to collect this gold, whatever the take, I'm going to be super proud. I would like to see about a gram. That would be wicked. So here's hoping. Well, I'm getting a little rusty in my guesses, 0.560. That right there is worth about 53 Australian dollars at the time of recording.